Listen carefully. If you are an Aquarius, you have been misunderstood more times than you can count. People call you detached, cold, emotionally unavailable, afraid of commitment. But that's not the truth. The truth is far more uncomfortable than that. You don't avoid relationships. You avoid losing yourself inside them. And if you've ever been in a situationship, that undefined space where feelings are real but labels feel suffocating, this is going to hit deeper than you expect. Because no one talks about what's really happening inside you. You don't resist labels because you want options. You resist labels because the moment something is defined, you feel like you're being reduced. An Aquarius does not live well inside reduction. The second someone says, "So what are we?" your brain doesn't hear romance. It hears pressure. It hears expectation. It hears the silent list of things you will now be required to perform. Text more consistently. Be emotionally expressive on demand. Show up in socially acceptable ways. Act like someone's partner is supposed to act. And here's the thing you rarely admit out loud. You're not afraid of being someone's partner. You're afraid of becoming a version of yourself that doesn't feel authentic. You've watched people dissolve into relationships. You've seen individuality fade. You've seen love turn into obligation. And somewhere deep inside, you promised yourself that would never be you. So instead, you create space. Not because you don't care, but because space feels like oxygen. You are ruled by air, and air does not survive in closed containers. When a connection stays undefined, it feels voluntary. You stay because you want to. You leave when you need to. There's movement. There's flexibility. There's freedom. And freedom is not a luxury to you. It's survival. But let's go deeper. Because situationships are not just about freedom. They're about control. And that's the part you don't like to face. When something has no label, it cannot fully collapse. It cannot publicly fail. It cannot trap you in an identity you're unsure about. Undefined means reversible. And reversible feels safe. You don't do this consciously. You don't wake up thinking, "Let me avoid commitment today." You genuinely connect. You genuinely care. You genuinely feel. But the second it starts feeling irreversible, something in you tightens. And you pull back. Not dramatically. Not cruelly. Just subtly. You go quiet. You take longer to respond. You immerse yourself in work, ideas, hobbies, friends. You tell yourself you just need space. And sometimes you do. But sometimes you're testing something. You're testing whether the connection can survive without constant closeness. You're testing whether the other person will panic. You're testing whether you can still breathe. Because here's the truth about you that few people understand. You fall in love through your mind first. If someone cannot stimulate your thoughts, challenge your perspective, or expand your worldview, you cannot attach deeply. Physical attraction may spark curiosity. Emotional intensity may feel exciting. But intellectual alignment is what makes you stay. You want conversations that stretch past midnight. You want debates that don't feel threatening. You want someone who understands your strange ideas about society, the future, humanity, identity. When you find that, you light up. And that's when situationships become dangerous for you. Because when the mental connection is strong, you feel attached. But when the label appears, you feel confined. And now you're split in two directions. Part of you wants to move closer. Part of you wants to run. This is why you can be incredibly intimate and still feel distant. You'll share your philosophy, your unconventional dreams, your thoughts about leaving everything behind and starting over somewhere new. But you rarely share your fear of needing someone. That's the part you guard. Dependence scares you more than heartbreak. Because heartbreak hurts. But dependence threatens your identity. And you value identity above almost everything. Here's the shift. You don't actually fear commitment. You fear commitment to the wrong person. You fear waking up one day feeling stuck in a life that no longer matches who you're becoming. You evolve constantly. Your interests change. Your beliefs refine. Your ambitions grow. You are future-oriented. If someone expects you to remain static for their comfort, you resist. But if someone grows with you, something changes. You start relaxing. And when you relax, you don't feel the need to hover in ambiguity anymore. You commit when commitment feels expansive, not restrictive. And that moment doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't come with a cinematic confession. It arrives quietly. You realize you're not interested in other options. You realize you enjoy consistency more than unpredictability. You realize that including someone in your future plans feels natural, not heavy. And the biggest sign of all, you stop testing your freedom. You don't disappear to prove you can. You don't withdraw to check your independence. You don't feel the urge to create distance just to re-establish control. Because you don't feel trapped. You feel understood. That's what changes everything for you. Understanding. If someone understands that your silence isn't rejection, that your need for space isn't lack of love, that your detachment is often emotional processing, not absence of feeling, you soften. And when you soften, you are one of the most loyal signs in the zodiac. Not possessive, not clingy, but steady. You don't perform love loudly. You demonstrate it subtly. You remember details others forget. You respect your partner's independence because you need your own respected. You defend them intellectually and emotionally. You stay because you want to stay. And when you stay fully. But let's address something uncomfortable. Sometimes you stay in undefined connections longer than you should. Not because they're right for you, but because they're not demanding enough to threaten you. Ambiguity can become a comfort zone. You tell yourself you're being rational. You tell yourself labels are unnecessary. But sometimes you're just avoiding vulnerability. Real vulnerability. The kind where someone can see how deeply you actually feel. The kind where leaving would hurt you more than you're used to admitting. You pride yourself on independence. But independence does not mean emotional isolation. You don't lose yourself by loving the right person. You lose yourself by loving someone who doesn't see you. There's a difference. When you find someone who doesn't panic at your silence, who doesn't try to control your time, who doesn't interpret your space as rejection, who doesn't try to reshape you into something more conventional, you don't feel trapped. You feel safe. And safety is what allows you to choose commitment freely. Not because you have to, but because you want to. And that distinction matters more to you than romance ever will. You want to wake up every day and feel like you are choosing your partner, not fulfilling a role. You want love that feels voluntary, mutual, conscious. You want someone who doesn't need to cage you to keep you. And here's the part you rarely say out loud. You want to be chosen that way too. Not out of dependency, not out of fear, but out of clarity. You don't want someone who needs you. You want someone who sees you and still chooses you. When that happens, the situationship dissolves naturally. Not because someone demanded a label, but because the label no longer feels threatening. It feels accurate. And that's the moment you step in fully. You don't announce it loudly. You don't transform overnight. But your energy shifts. You become more present, more consistent, more emotionally transparent in subtle ways. You stop standing near the exit. You stop imagining escape routes. You stop questioning whether staying will cost you yourself. Because it doesn't. And that's the difference between an Aquarius who is drifting and an Aquarius who has decided. If you're listening to this and recognizing yourself, here's something important. You are not difficult to love. You are complex. And complexity requires patience. But don't hide behind complexity as an excuse to avoid depth. You don't have to choose between freedom and intimacy. You can have both. You just need someone who understands that your love language is space, thought, evolution, and choice. And when you find that, you won't hover in the undefined anymore. You'll step forward. Not because someone cornered you. Not because you were pressured. But because you finally feel safe enough to let someone see all of you. And when an Aquarius feels safe, they don't halfway love. They don't partially commit. They don't pretend. They decide. Quietly. Intentionally. Completely. So the real question isn't whether you fear commitment. The real question is this. Are you protecting your freedom? Or are you protecting your fear? Only you know the answer. And once you do, the confusion disappears. And what once felt undefined finally becomes something you choose with confidence.